Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and this is Unit 6, Lesson 3. We're going to skip the algebra tiles in this case and move on to factoring trinomials by inspection. So let's take a look at the first example that is already completed for us, and notice that obviously we're using FOIL right here, and we're going x times x, which is giving us the x squared here. And then we're going x times 4, which is giving us the 4x, and x times 2, which is giving the 2x. And then we're going to combine those and put them together, and that is going to be 6x. So it's sort of like there's our three little sections that we have right there. The first one right here is two binomials. Then we multiply them out, expand them out using FOIL, and then we just combine all the like terms and simplify it. So notice that the 6x is the sum of those two numbers, which is really the sum of those two numbers with the x at the end of it. And the last one, the 8, is the product of those two. So 2 times 4 is 8. And when both of these binomials have a plus sign in between the two terms, then we end up with two plus signs right there. So let's just take a look at the second example here, and we should be able to expand that out right to its simplified form. So I've got x's at the beginning, so that's going to be x squared. I've got a 3 and a 3, and they're both positive in between here, right? Sorry, wrong one. They're both positive inside there, so we're going to end up with a positive 6x, and now 3 times 3 is 9. So you should be able to quickly expand that out and simplify it at the same time. So if we look at the third example, again, it's going to be x squared. If I look at 7 plus 1 is 8, so I got 8x, and 7 times 1 is 7. And because all of these have a plus in the middle, plus, they're all in between these three terms in the trinomial, we are also going to have the addition symbols, or positive terms. So let's take a look at the third one. Again, it's going to be x squared. 5 plus 2 is 7x, and 5 times 2 is 10. Really quick. Now, with the third term, with this example right here, we're still going to end up with x squared, okay? And because the signs are the same, so in this case we've got a negative sign and a negative sign, we're still going to sort of add those two numbers together, so it's going to be negative 7x, not positive 7x. And then the last one, it's a negative 5 times a negative 2, which is a positive 10. Okay, and in the last example, again, we're going to have x squared. This time the signs are different. So if the signs are different, we're going to do it a slightly different way. Notice that in every one of these cases, we went 3 plus 3, 1 plus 7, 2 plus 5, negative 2, plus negative 5, and in this case it's just positive 8 plus negative 6, so it's going to be a positive 2x, and I'm still going to multiply the last two terms, which is 48, but because the signs are different, there will be a negative sign placed at the end there between the last two terms. Okay, let's take a look at this class example 4. So they're giving us a table and asking us to complete it. In the left-hand column right here, we've got the sum of two numbers. And in the middle column, we got the product of two numbers. So the sum is when we add these two together. So 2 plus 10 equals 12. And the product is when we multiply things together. So 2 times 10 equals 20. Okay, so the reason they're doing this is basically this first example would be set up something like this, where it'd be like x plus 2 and x plus 10. So notice that when we take the 10 and the 2 and we add them together, we're getting 12. And when we take the 10 and 2 and multiply them together, we are getting 20. So we look at the example below, and it's saying find two numbers that will multiply together to give us a positive 20 and add together to give us 9. So we could make a list for ourselves such as this. So I got 20 and say what numbers multiply together to give us 20. Well, I got 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and 4 times 5. Now I got to find two of those that are going to add together to give us 9. And that would be these two right here, 4 and 5. So the same thing could be done for 4. What possible numbers can be put together to give us a product of 4? Well, 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. And then they need to add together to produce a sum of 4. Well, 4 plus 1 is 5. 2 plus 2 is 4. So we can see it is 2 and 2. Okay, the next example, it says we got a product of 18, but we're going to add them together and get a sum of negative 9. So we got a negative sum. So that basically means that, remember, if this integer or this product right here is going to be positive, then that means that these two numbers right here are going to be the same sign. So in this case, they're both going to be that sign, which is negative. So what two numbers will multiply together to give us 18? Well, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. Now in this case, both of those numbers are going to be negative. Okay, so and they need to add together to give us 9. So 3 plus 6 is 9, but it's going to be a negative 3 and a negative 6. Okay, and in the next table to the right, again, we've got a product of 14. So what numbers multiply together to give us 14? Well, 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. They need to add together to give us 15. That is these two right here. And the sum of those need to be negative. So in this case, it will be a negative 1 and a negative 14. Okay, next one. Now we're into some negative products right here. So that means that essentially we've got one of the integers is going to be negative and one of the integers is going to be positive, and we will add those together, and the sign that is with the sum, so this sign right here, will go with the largest number of the two integers. Okay, so in this case the larger number will be negative, and in this case the larger number will be positive. But I still do it the same way. How can I put two numbers together to give us a product of 6? Okay, and we've got a 1 and 6 and a 2 and 3. Then what do I need to do? Well, this tells me I need to subtract those numbers to get a negative 1. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So I've got a 3 and a 2. And because there is a negative 1 here, the negative will go with the larger number. Okay, so let's bring that theory down to the next question. 15. So what two numbers can multiply together to give us 15? 1 times 15. 2 will not work, and 3 times 5. This says we are going to subtract those numbers to get a positive 2. So 5 minus 3 is 2. So we get 5. I'll put the small one first, a 3 and a 5. And it's telling us that the signs are going to be different right here. That's the only way you're going to get a product that is negative. And it's the sum of those will be positive. So that means the larger one, the 5, needs to be positive, and the smaller one would be a negative 3. Okay, and the last example, the product is positive. So both of the integers will be the same. They will both be, in this case, negative because the sum is negative. So I need to take a look at 48. And what numbers do we have that can multiply together to give us 48? 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, and also 6 and 8. So we've got a lot of possibilities here, but what is it telling us? We're going to need to add the two together to get a negative 26. So we can see that right here, 2 and 24 make 26. So the numbers are 2 and 24. And because the sum is negative and both of the signs are the same, these both have to be a negative 2 and a negative 24. All right, here we go. So we are going to get into factoring trinomials. Everybody loves doing this. Class example number 5. We'll start with A, and it says, let's factor out this trinomial that is x squared plus 8x plus 12. Now, we're going to be taking trinomials, and we're going to be putting them into two binomials. So we know to get this first term in the trinomial x squared, I need to have two x's. This sign right here tells us that both of the signs in each of the binomials are going to be the same, and they're both going to be positive. So I can put a plus and a plus right there. This one is the product. So I got two numbers that multiply to give us positive 12 and add together to give us a positive 8. So again, I can go on the side and say what numbers go together to give us 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Which two will add together to give us 8? Those two. So I'm just going to put a 2 and a 6 in there, and that one is done. So let's move on to example B. It says x squared plus 13x plus 12. Again, we know we're going to get two binomials. It's going to be x and x. Both the signs are the same and they're both positive. So I just go plus plus. And it looks like we're using 12 again, so we might as well use the same little chart that we made right here. And in this case, they're going to add together to give us 13, which will be those ones, 1 and 12. So I just put a 1 and a 12 right there. Okay, so we're going to move on to example C, which says x squared minus 13x plus 12. So it looks like we're just carrying on with the same product in all three of these examples. And again, we know we're going to get two binomials with x and x. In this case, they are both the same and they're both negative. So I'm going to put a negative and a negative, and they're going to add together to give us a 13 or a negative 13 in this case. So it will still be the 1 and the 12. But it's going to be a negative 12 and a negative 1 gives us a negative 13. Okay, let me just shrink this down a little bit, and we'll take a look at the other ones over here. Okay, example D says we've got a squared minus 11a plus 10. So again, what do I have? I got two binomials. They're going to be a and a. The signs are the same. They're both negative. So minus, minus. And let's find the possible products of 10, or the numbers that will give us a product of 10. So we got 10. I've got 1 and 10, 2 and 5. And they're going to add together to give us, in this case, 11, which would be those two, 1 and 10. Fill in those numbers. Okay, letter E says we got a y squared plus 3y plus 4. Again, two binomials, y and y. They're both going to be the same and they're both going to be positive. So plus, plus. The product is going to be 4 and the sum is going to be 3. So what two numbers can multiply together to give us 4? Well, we've got 1 and 4 and 2 and 2, and they need to add together to give us 3. Well, 4 plus 1 is 5, and 2 plus 2 is 4, and there are no more ways to produce a product of 4 with two integers. So in this case, we say this is not possible. Okay. Last one, example F. We've got x squared plus 27x plus 50. So again, two binomials with x and x, a plus and a plus. Product of 50 is going to be 1 and 50, 2 and 25, and 5 and 10. And they need to add together to give us 27. That is those two right there, 2 and 25. Okay, we got class example 6 here. These look a little bit different in the case that this x has a number in front of it that is not 1. So it's usually we're looking at x squared, but in this case I got a 3 in front of this one and I got a 4 in front of that one. So there's a different process involved to factor out two binomials when the this is in the form what we say is ax squared plus bx plus c, where in this case a would be 4, b would be a negative 32, and c is a positive 48. So when a is 1, like the examples that we just did in exercise 5, or class example 5, it was easy to use that system to factor out two binomials. But in this case, we got to do either a different process or remove a common factor. So that's the first thing we want to do. Later on, we'll learn the system to factor out two binomials when the a, in this case, is not 1. But right now they're saying we should be able to remove a common factor. And that's what you always want to check first anyway. So basically what I want to do is get that 4 out of there. So that means I want a 1 in front of that x squared. So that means I'm going to divide this by 4, because 4 divided by 4 is 1, which means I need to divide that by 4 and divide that by 4. If that's possible, then we can factor out that 4. And in this case, it is possible. So first of all, we're going to factor out that 4. So I pull out that 4. I'm left with x squared. Then negative 32 divided by 4 is going to give us a negative 8x. And 48 divided by 4 is going to give us a positive 12. At this point, we're back to the form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, where the a is equal to a 1 in front of there. So what are we going to do? Same thing we just finished doing. Don't forget to put that 4 there though, and then 2 binomials, which will be x and x. The signs are both going to be the same. They're both going to be negative. So I put a negative and a negative. I go find what numbers can multiply to give me 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and they need to add together to give me 8, which is these two right there. And I put a 2 and a 6 right there. So this one completely factored out is going to be 4 times x minus 2 times x minus 6. Okay, and in example B, again, we need to have the a in front of the x cubed, a in front of the x squared as a 1, and we need to have the x with a power of 2. Okay, so in this case, what we're actually going to factor out is going to be a 3x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X cubed divided by x is going to give us x squared. So what I have to do is make sure that this one can be multiplied or divided by 3x, and this one can be divided by 3x. And in all three cases, that is possible. So what do we have? We got 3x cubed plus 21x squared plus 30x. We're going to basically be left with a trinomial, and we're going to pull out, like I said, a 3x, leaving us with an x squared in this position, a positive 7x in that position, and a positive 10 in that position. So we got to find two numbers that multiply together to give us 10, and we'll add together to give us 7. And so we got 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and that is it. And 2 plus 5 is 7. So essentially we've got 3x and two binomials, x, x. The signs are the same. They're both positive. So plus, plus, and the numbers we found out were 2 and 5. Okay, that is it for class example number 6. All right, guys, so we are done this lesson, and here's the at-home assignment that you are to complete and bring to me next class. So you're going to factor these three trinomials. First one is x squared plus 15x plus 56. And remember, what we're trying to come up with is two binomials. And in this case, you can see that we've got this value in front of the x squared, which happens to be an x cubed. So we're going to have some value out front of our two binomials that we have right there. Okay, so the second one is x squared plus 5x minus 104, and the last one is 8x cubed plus 40x squared plus 48x, and factor those three. And in class, we will work on questions 4 through 15, pages 340 to 342.